I know a little something about goosebumps. You know that feeling when you get those little bumps on your skin because you're so excited because something really important is happening? I'm the president and CEO of the Smith Center for the Performing Arts in Las Vegas, a building that was designed and built during the worst economic downturn in our city's history, and we opened on time and on budget. And that's because every decision was made following our vision. And I don't mean the vision statement, right? That thing that you go have a retreat for, and then you take the printed thing and you stick it in your desk drawer. I mean our vision, our DNA, the thing that we believed in so deeply that would change our community. So I'd like to spend a minute today talking about Goosebumps, but using the Smith Center as my backdrop. You see, it all started for me in the 4th grade. I remember the school bus pulling up to my school for the biggest field trip we'd ever had. We planned on it in advance. We talked about it. We were excited. We got on this bus and made our trek to downtown Houston to the Performing Arts Center called Jones Hall. We were excited. As we pulled up to this majestic building, I knew we'd gone someplace special. And as it happens, our group was escorted through the grand lobby, and I was seated 8th row center in a chair that I remember to this day was covered in mohair fabric, and I can still feel that unique feel of mohair on the palms of my hands today. And just about that time, the house lights went down, and the curtain went up, and I got goosebumps all up and down my arms. I knew at the time, as a 4th grader, that something really special was happening. I also knew this was for me, and I wanted to experience it again, and I wanted to find ways to share that experience with others. So I live in the entertainment capital of the world. We started talking about the notion of designing and building a world-class performing arts center. And people said, well, you know, this is Las Vegas. We've got more showrooms per capita than any other city. I mean, we have Siegfried and Roy. And we talked about it, and we said, you know, we know that we do a great job entertaining tourists. But how do we make this a great place to live? And that was at the heart of every conversation we had. It's true that that we used examples. I mean, people have always had a need to gather together, right? To celebrate, to have something to cheer for. I said we need that in our town. A place where people, no matter where they live, can come together and cheer for something really special. I started calling it the living room for Las Vegas. A place not just for the arts, a place for commencement exercises. Last week we were fortunate to unveil the new U.S. postage stamp honoring the Nevada sesquicentennial at the Smith Center. All kinds of events are taking place. All right, so early on, as we started making the case for why a world-class performing arts center would be important for our community, of course, we made the case about creating jobs, 3,600 construction jobs that were created at a time when our city really, really needed them. And we talked about economic development and how other businesses will benefit from having this kind of resource. And we learned from other cities about how this kind of place can completely transform a city and be a catalyst for downtown redevelopment. We did all of that. But the truth is, we usually talked about kids. We talked about giving people the opportunity to be inspired. We talked about making our place a better place to live. And I love it when the school buses pull up. I have to tell you, there's nothing that brings me more joy. But it was all about those kids. And by the way, their grandkids and their kids as well. So here's a group of kids that made their way to the Smith Center for a field trip recently. You ever having a bad day, you walk out and you see these kids getting off of the bus with the same excitement that I had in the 4th grade, and you know that we've made good on the promise that we made down in Las Vegas. All right, so this picture is of a guy named Hobie Ford. He is a Kennedy Center teaching artist. He's a Jim Henson Fellow in puppetry. We brought him to Las Vegas. And asked him to teach our 4th and 5th grade teachers how to incorporate creative writing into their language arts programs. When you think about it, 4th and 5th graders are still figuring out the difference between a noun and a verb, right? How are you going to teach them creative writing? Well, this guy figured it out. If you notice his top hand, he's got a little set of eyeballs. He developed these, and he uses them as a teaching tool. So the first day, he spent the entire day with teachers from around our valley. And the next day, we asked him to go into a classroom, a real classroom, and do demonstration teaching. And he did. Every kid got a set of eyeballs, and every kid got a stack of index cards. And he let them play for a little bit, and then he said, all right, listen, on the first index card, I want you to write down who your puppet is. Is he a human or she? An animal? Is he an alien? Tell me who he is. Write that on your first card. Then on the next card, tell me who his friends are. Kids are writing down, oh, his friends are these people. What's he like to eat? And so on and so forth, until the kids had a little stack of index cards that were part of their story. At the end, he said, all right, I'd like for some of you to come up and tell your stories. And he said, I've set up an easel here, so if you want, you can come and kind of stand behind the easel and let your puppet do the talking. Who would like to come up? And one girl immediately raised her hand. He called on her. What he didn't know is that she hadn't been taking notes. She hadn't written anything on an index card. And the other thing he didn't know is that she was highly autistic, and she'd never engaged in conversation with her classmates, ever. Yet she came up, she stood behind the easel, and she put her puppet up and over, and she started having a conversation with kids in her class. It was a breakthrough. Her teacher started crying. The arts are this powerful tool that help us in math and in science. And yes, they can even help our kids learn to talk to one another. Completely changed this girl's life and her family's lives. So there's not a day that goes by that I don't look out my window and see someone having their photo taken. There's always a bride or a graduation photo or an engagement photo or a family portrait. Every single day, someone is using the Smith Center as the backdrop for an important photo that they want to cherish for a lifetime. So this photo is of my father. Now, if you look really closely, towards the right and in the middle, you'll see one guy with sunglasses and a cigar. That's my dad. I'd seen this photo my whole life. Never thought much about it until we lost my dad, and I had a chance to spend some time with a box full of photos. And on the back of this one, in his handwriting, it says, 3 days off in Paris. So I was curious then, where's this building? I had no idea. And I started doing the research, and I found out that he was standing on the steps of the Trocadero. And I learned a little bit about that time off that he and all of his colleagues in the United States Army had at that moment. And I think it's interesting that I'm here showing you a picture of my dad from World War II today, the 70th anniversary of D-Day. But I got a chance to go and explore, and I found that place in Paris. Now, I don't smoke cigars. It's not lit. but this was my tribute to Dad for his great service for our country and for being such a great father. But the notion that I could go back and stand in the very same place some 60 plus years after his photo was taken was a very, very special memory for me. And on the walls of the Trocadero, there's a saying carved in stone that says that all of us create automatically. Even as we breathe, we create. But artists, they know when they create because it uses every part of their body to make great creation happen. So today I say thank you to those artists who created these wonderful monuments in Paris. By the way, one of the other things I didn't realize is what my dad was looking at when this photo was taken. Right now I'm looking at it. I'm just across the street from the Eiffel Tower. And every time I see that building now, I have a new appreciation for the joy that that building brought to those guys in the Army when they had their 3 days off in Paris. So I encourage all of you to find those opportunities to get with friends and family. Find those opportunities to be inspired. Do some things that you might not normally do. And I know you'll appreciate them later. Smith Center later this month, believe it or not, after being open just a couple of years, is going to greet our 1 millionth patron. 1 million people have come through our doors. Yeah, thank you. And I know that there are thousands of amazing stories that have been told about experiences in the building, but I'd like to share just one with you before I go. This is a picture of a lady named Lisa Bisnack. She's a teacher in the Clark County School District. If you look in the background, she happened to be watching, or was about to see the show Wicked at the Smith Center. Her husband tells the story that she had been wanting to see this show for a long, long time. That she'd really wanted to see this show, and he agreed to go along, even though, he wasn't as excited as she was. But they planned it as a date night without the kids. They planned it as a way to really just get out the two of them. Steve, the husband, took this photograph. And shortly after this picture was taken, Lisa died suddenly and without warning. And this is the one photograph that he shared at her funeral. And he told the group that it really was the best time they'd had in ages, that they were thrilled about the experience they had that night. He said his only regret is that he wasn't able to take the kids. Knowing what he knows now, he wished that his kids could have experienced this amazing experience that the two of them had. Well, Wicked's coming back to Las Vegas this year. And guess who was first in line to buy tickets? Her husband. He said he wanted to be first because he wanted his kids to sit in that same place where their mom had gotten to sit just last year. And at some point, they're going to have their photograph taken. And for that brief moment, they will be reconnected. Another great, powerful story from the arts. So as I leave you, this is my daughter, Molly Martin. Put this photo in because it's really important to me. A minute ago I said make sure that you take pictures. Well, get in the pictures now and then too. It's really important. I'm thrilled to have been in this photograph because on this day, at this moment, my daughter Molly was attending her 4th grade field trip. And yes, she got goosebumps. So I wish that on all of you. Thanks so much for having me today.